Welcome to OAA Now, your home for Oakland Activities Association news and information. Here's your host, Sammy Taormina.
Welcome to OAA Now. Here I'm Sammy Taormina, blogger around the OAA, the host of Last Week Brain Cells, and the host between Taormina's on Orion Television. Like to welcome those watching on the local voice on SoundCloud and those watching on Orion Television. I'll talk about this week here on the podcast. A lot, especially, has gone down this past weekend, particularly in league play in the boys' side of things. Girls, we're getting ready to start league play with the red, the white, and the gold all getting underway starting this week. So a lot to digest, a lot to talk about, and especially when you look at heading into the district situation, how everything's going to look around the league when it comes to basketball. So let's talk about our main story here first. I mean, obviously, a lot of b-ball to talk about here. When you look at this division, and I think the red right now basically just went upside down real fast. And the reason why I say that is because you look at the division as it is right now. It's kind of really gone upside down. I mean, you look at Avondale, team that came at 7-5 right now, came in at 6-5, win the Clarkston after an emotional win against Groves, taking on the Wolves, and things were going well for them until the fourth quarter when they exploded and they shot Clarkston 55-48. How do you explain that? I can tell you something. Avondale coach Jared Thomas had to be motivated for that one. He had to be. Because when you look at how motivated he was in that game, considering you look at what happened last year, look at what happened, they had Clarkson dead to rights, and then they couldn't get the job done. They could have pulled away. Last year in the district, same thing. District semifinal. I mean, Clarkson had a lead. Avondale almost came back. Strong second half. Couldn't pull away. Couldn't get that last basket drop. So, this year, Avondale's got more experience. They are a loaded team. I mean, they added Jacoby Loris, came from Lake Orion. And they found a way defensively to shut Clarkson down. Anytime you shut down players like Quinn Rosenberg, you shut down John Cole, Hayden Flavin, Cole Charter. That tells you something. It really does. I had Clarkson my top team until then. Now I have Avondale. And right now, Avondale's a team that I think right now, if I had to pick between those three teams right now, I would have to say it's Avondale, then Clarkson, then Groves. Now, Clarkson and Groves, they play each other this week. So that should be an interesting matchup between those two. But for Avondale, this is not only a message sender to the red, to Clarkson, and it's also to Clarkson saying, look, we not only have you in division, but now we have you in district. So when you look at the rate of that win, pretty significant. But it didn't do much in the playoff standings. It really didn't do in the NPR when you look at it. In the NPR, it changes daily. It really does. But that district over at Avondale is absolutely insane. When you look at the teams in there, you look at Clarkston, you look at Waterford Mott, you look at Avondale, and you look at Lake Orion. I mean, Waterford Kettering, they're struggling this year a little bit, but when you look at those teams, and you say to yourself, Waterford Mott's 10-1 right now. They have a big win against Grand Blanc. They're a well-coached team under Jeff Jason. They got a lot of proven players. Jacoby, like many Weathers. They got a lot of proven players on that team. They really do. You look at, of course, Avondale. We know how good they are. Guard heavy. I'm still a little concerned about the interior play with Avondale. Then you have Lake Orion. Zach Parks, Ryan Rushlow back. It's a big deal for them. Starting to get things together after a disastrous game against Oxford. Had a big win against Farmington. And then Clarkston, we know what they got. But for Avondale, this is a statement win for them. It's a statement win that basically says, look, we can beat you. We can beat you. And you're not that big bad Clarkson that people have said that we've been in the past. We can beat you. That's basically what Coach Jared Thomas's team said to Clarkston on Friday night in a snowstorm. We can beat you. They did it to Groves, held Groves to 44, and he held Clarkson to 48. So that kind of tells you the last two games that between Groves and Clarkson, both teams really highly octane offenses, and they haven't held them to 46 points per game. That's insane. That's insane. I mean, how do you explain it? I mean, there's no doubt Avondale is the cream of the crop of the red right now. Even over Groves and Clarkson, and both those teams have better records than Clarkson than Avondale. That says a lot. Really does. It really does. North Farmington, I still can't figure North Farmington out, considering that they've been up and down. Had a big win against West Bloomfield, 60-46 on Friday night. Like I said, they're as good as Rob Smith takes them. Rob Smith's basically the whole engine that keeps Coach Todd Negoshin's team going. That's basically what it is. I mean, if Smith don't have a good game, North Farmington struggles. If he does have a good game, North Farmington wins. That's really been the story for Coach Todd Negoshin's team. It's been how good is Rod Smith going to take him? It's really what it is. That's really how you describe North Farmington, is how good is Rob Smith going to take him? That's really what it is. West Bloomfield's case, I've been on Arnett Jordan all year, Coach Arnett Jordan all year long. When it comes to defense, your defense has been pretty bad. And that says something. That says something. I mean, your defense has just been absolutely, when you're allowing over 50 points every game, that's not a recipe for success. That's a recipe for disaster. So if you're Coach Arnett Jordan, where's the defensive mindset to this? Where is it? I mean, I want to know. I want to know. And the stats don't lie. Stats really, really don't lie. When you look at West Bloomfield defensively, I mean, I've said this for weeks now about West Bloomfield. You have proven scorers in Curtis Burton, but it's how you defend. It's how you defend. I mean, when I look at where West Bloomfield is at right now, postseason-wise, they're in a difficult spot right now. Because they're staring Orchard Lake St. Mary's in the chest right now, and you have Wall Lake Central right behind them. So when I look at West Bloomfield, Orchard Lake St. Mary's, we know what they got. We know they're the defending Division I state champions. But can they be beat? Absolutely. I mean, I've said this for weeks now with Orchard Lake St. Mary's. They are human. They are human. And they just played IMG Academy, lost that one. I know the record's very deceiving at the moment, but the biggest problem I have with West Bloomfield has been their defense. Their defense has been absolutely bad. It really has. They're giving up a bunch of points. Anytime your defense gives up over 50 a game, that's bad. That is extremely bad. So, if you're West Bloomfield, you got to get things fixed defensively. If you're Coach John Jordan, you got to get things fixed. Because you can score points in bunches, but you got to defend people. You score and defend both. That's a recipe for success. If you defend, don't score, could be a recipe, but you rather want to score. I get that West Bloomfield's got scores, but when they get shut down in your you got to rely on your defense. And so far, West Bloomfield is not. They have not. So, until then, that's what West Bloomfield's going to be. They have got to make a commitment to the defense side. They've got to. If they don't, they're going to be done. And they might be done early. Because I think Wall Lake Central give them trouble, and you know Orchard Lake St. Mary's going to give them trouble. Then you got Ferndale. Ferndale's kind of in that same boat, but I think Ferndale's more different for different reasons. He's at 3-9. Had a terrible loss to Muskegon. When I look at the Eagles, and I think about what Coach and Athletic Director Ron Rickman's done, looking at that schedule, it's brutal. It's a brutal, brutal schedule. The non-conference, it's tough. Really is. And the fact that there's two sides to every story here, you got to win these games. You got to win these games. Because if you keep showing up being competitive in these games, you lose these games, what's it going to do for you? Look at the NPR. Ferndale sits third right now, behind, obviously, Warren Lincoln. And Warren Lincoln's been an injury-riddled team right now. And then Detroit Pershing. So, here's my question for Rickman. When is the morale going to be for these kids? Because it looks like right now, and I get they're a young group. They're a young team. Torino Adams is only a sophomore. Edan Vineyard's only a sophomore. But when you look at for Ferndale, it's not about winning the division for them. It's about getting ready for the postseason. And they have to play the red schedule, which they got some wins. I mean, they knocked off North Farmington. They knocked off Avondale. But their problem is morale. How's their morale going to be? You ask that question. How is that morale going to be for them when they have to play, when they get into March, and you're most likely having to stare Detroit Pershing right in the face? It's a tough matchup for them. Really is. It's a really difficult matchup for them. So if you're Ferndale, right now, you got to start winning games. You got to start winning games, get some confidence in you. Because if you don't, you're in that 3 seed, difficult chance for you. Really difficult time. So, for Ferndale, that's really where I see with them. I really do. And then there's Adams. Rochester Adams, we know what they've went through with the Langdon brothers. We know what. Now, I don't know what happened. I know they had to forfeit that game that they played at the Motor City Round Ball. I'm not sure if they're still eligible or not. In my opinion, they shouldn't be. Considering, you look at all the evidence there, that totally describes it's an athletically motivated transfer. I did say something about it. If you want to watch the December 30th podcast, my thoughts are right there when it comes to the Langdon brothers. Adams, when I look at this team, they're going to take some lumps. They've already taken lumps already. Look at players like Trent Lagarde, Kenneth Flynn, Luke Martial. I mean, they've taken a lot of lumps, but they've been competitive. Even in their losses, they've been extremely competitive. They have been just extremely competitive. So when I look at Adams, here's a team that, just lost a lot the last few days, but it allows other players to step up. They could bring up some players if they wanted to from their JV team. And you look at with Adams, they got program strength. They got program strength. I mean, there's a couple players to watch for in the future. I mean, I'm really, really excited about this young Schroeder kid from Adams. He's gonna do wonders, I think, in both football and basketball. He's an athlete. He really is. Do I think he should be playing on varsity right away? Probably not. But he's right there. I really think Adams is fine. I really do. When I look at their district ahead, I'll have Adams girls basketball coach Joe Malberg come on in about 2 weeks. And we're going to break down that Adams district with them, Rochester, Stony Creek, Romeo, Utica, and Utica Eisenhower. I mean, we got a lot to talk about, particularly this one team we got to talk about. That's Romeo. I mean, I just don't know what's going on with Romeo. I really don't. I can't explain it. I've watched at least 3 Bulldog games this year, and they just don't look good. They just don't look very good. So, talk Romeo. Obviously, Malberg is a Romeo alum. So, be good to bring him in, talk about the Bulldogs, talk about the district. Also, a lot of girls basketball as well. But back to the boys team. I really think they're fine. I just think Adams is fine. I'm not too worried or concerned with Isaiah Novak's team. I'm not. They're fine. They're going to be fine. I mean, that's how you approach it. You just gotta survive the division. You gotta survive it. That's what Adams is doing right now. I mean, they've been very competitive in these games. They're very competitive. The results aren't showing right now, but the NPR, I think, is a little wacky at the moment over there in that district. But eventually I see Adams getting the top seed because of strength of schedule. Same thing I look at with Oxford in Grand Blank's situation. Oxford right now, we know that they're in a ridiculous pace right now. They're 11-0. But I think Grand Blanc will pass them based on the strength of schedule. So I think the strength of schedule component is going to be where it is right now. So we'll see. So when I look at the Red right now, I still think it's going to be Avondale right now is the best team in that division. Really are. Then I would say Clarkston, Groveston, Clarkston. Then I'd say West Bloomfield, Ferndale. Actually, take back Ferndale, then West Bloomfield, then Ferndale, then Adams. So and then actually take it back. North Farmington, I gotta put North Farmington above West Bloomfield. So, I got Avondale, followed by Groves, Clarkston, North Farmington, West Bloomfield, Ferndale, then Adams. That's the take of the red right now. Let's go to the white now. I look at the white. Oxford right now is pretty 11-0. I will be curious to see when they go to Lake Orion. I will be very curious. Because Lake Orion did not play their full-fledged players that night over at Oxford. They really did not. They looked impressive against Farmington, winning that one by 17. But I would be curious to see when Oxford has to go on the road to those two places, especially Lake Orion. And if they have their full-fledged players there, that might be a different outcome. So, obviously, the play of Braden Elling has been huge for Oxford. I mean, it basically takes away a lot of teams' attention to focus on Jake Champagne. Jake Champagne's found a Robin. I mean, obviously, that's not counting Luke Stofan, Nolan Mauser, and company over there. Really not. I mean, Joe Fedorachek's done a really nice job with that team. I mean, playing the schedule they've been given. But now you got to question yourself with Oxford is, when are they going to play the big boys? When are they going to play the Red? When are they going to play a team like a Grand Blanc? I mean, their best win, I think, is Lake Orion. Lake Orion was a team that, just had Ryan Rusho just came back that day. They didn't have Nate Giacalone. They didn't have the Nearings. I mean, I think it's a different game when they go to Lake Orion. I really do. Farmington, they're kind of in a slump with 2 losses during the week. So when I look at Oxford, and I say to myself, here's a team that, doing what they're capable of doing, but I want to see how they do against a proven powerhouse. Against a team like a Clarkston, or a North Farmington, or a Ferndale, or a Groves, or a West Bloomfield. Because I guarantee you that right now with Oxford, that's a different story. I don't think Oxford's undefeated. They play any of those teams in the red. And then when they get to districts, they're going to play Grand Blanc. And we know how good Grand Blanc is. Yeah, they're down a little bit this year. But I really think even with that schedule that Grand Blanc's played, I think they're favored over Oxford. When I look at that district over there at Lapeer, obviously it's going to be Grand Blanc and Oxford, the top 2 teams. Holly struggled this year. Lapeer's been up and down. I mean, Lapeer's been really good against bad teams. When they play good teams, they struggle. At Lapeer, Lake Orion game is going to be interesting on Monday night. It's going to be interesting. I call that game the Anthony Taormina game. Because I know how bad my brother Anthony Taormina wants to see Lapeer, Grand Blanc, and Davis in the OA. Me personally, I want to see Lapeer in the league. I really do. Because I think Lapeer gives this conference a different dimension. It really would. Really would. But that's just me. That's just my take. But when you look at Oxford, I really think that the Wildcats, people are going to say, well, they're for real. I don't know why Stu Carlton in the D-Zone has them ranked 17. I really don't know. I just don't know why. But he has them ranked. You got to look at strength of schedule. Oxford's best win right now would be Lake Orion. I really think that's their best win. I'm curious to see how that Lake Orion game is going to be when they go to Lake Orion. And then they got to go to Farmington, which that's never an easy trip. So we'll see what happens there. Then there's Lake Orion. Lake Orion had that tough loss to Oxford last week. Albeit they didn't have 3 players literally play. And then Stephen Butcher's likely going to be out for the year with an ACL. So that's a big loss there. So when I look at the Dragons, playing Farmington, back and forth, nail-biting game, found a way to win that one by 2, 48-46. And Zach Parks didn't even lead him. Nate Giacalone at 15. Gabe Scott at 13. Zach at 10. So it kind of tells you something. One, I give Farmington a ton of credit, what they did to Zach Parks. But also give Coach Jose Andrades and his staff credit. Assistant Coach Sean Smith, Coach Barnes, a lot of credit. Also Coach Bill Richardson. They get a lot of credit. Because you look at this team, and they have different options besides Zach Parks. And then you look at the game against Oak Park, where Ryan Washoe had 13 points. Zach Parks at 13 as well. Gabe Scott at 12. So it kind of tells you something right there, balanced scoring. If Lake Orion gets balanced scoring night in, night out, look out. And they didn't look great against Oak Park. They really did not look great against Oak Park. I don't think this team's played their best game yet. I really don't think they played their best game yet. And that's something. That would be scary. And this team can get better. This team can get better. Right now, when you look at the NPR for Lake Orion right now, they're sitting 4th in their district. And the reason why they're 4th, and you look at that, and the fact they got 6 wins, it's a brutal district that they're in. It's a brutal district. So, right now, and then you look at Lake Orion's chances, I think they're fine. But they have that February, on that dreaded February, they got to go on the road a lot. They got to go to Harper Woods, Oak Park, and Farmington all in the month of February. Yikes. Just yikes. Then you look at Farmington. Farmington, 2 tough losses. I think they're okay. I think they're going to be fine. Because they got both Lake Orion and Oxford have to come to Farmington. But it'll be interesting to see what Coach Byron Johnson does. It'll be really interesting to see how that does. Will be. Be really interesting. Then you look at Seaholm. Seaholm's coming off. Seaholm's better than the record indicates. They really are. Tough losses to Harper Woods by 4. They had an overtime loss to Troy Athens. We'll see. We'll see with them. Then Troy. Leo Penosa is starting to become that Robin for Coach Gary Fralick. Everybody knows about Mason Parker. Everybody knows about him. A lot of people know about Andrew Lake. But Leo Penosa has really been that sneaky player where, you don't know much about him. Just look at his older brother. His older brother was a 3-point shooter, too, when he played for Gary. So, I think with Leo, it's an interesting dynamic. And I thought Kuiper had a nice game for them, too. Against Troy Athens. I thought Kuiper had a nice game. So, if this team keeps developing, could Troy be a threat in the district? Absolutely. Absolutely. So we'll see what happens. Then we look at Oak Park. Oak Park is not as deep as I thought it would be. Shoot a lot of threes. They don't make them. They struggle. That's really the issue there for Coach Durant Shepard. Really is. Troy Athens, clear. they do struggle at times offensively. They do struggle at times, and their defense has also suffered as well when their offense struggles. Then there's Harper Woods. Harper Woods is a very young team. You got a freshman at point guard. Sophomore, obviously, with Drew McDonald there at the shooting guard spot. Just a young team. Myron Baylor, the best player in the center, senior. They're a young team. Really young team. So when I look at the white right now overall, I think it's Oxford, Lake Orion, Farmington, Troy. I would say right now I would trust Troy Athens more than Oak Park. Then I would say Seaholm. Sorry, Harper Woods, Oak Park, Seaholm. But Seaholm is much better than the record indicates. Let's go to the blue. When I look at the blue, to me, there's one clear team right now in that division that's looking really good right now. That's Pontiac. Pontiac's sitting real pretty right now. I mean, I got to give their staff, their new coaching staff, a lot of credit. It's done a nice job with them. Considering everything as they've been through this offseason. Beginning of the year, coaching change. Sean Johnson. Credits to Pontiac, the way that they've been playing. I mean, J.J. Claudio's been playing really well for them. Henry Brothers has been playing well. They got weapons. I mean, they got weapons everywhere. That says a lot. Says a lot with Pontiac. They got options. I mean, I look at that district for Pontiac. Looks manageable. They got to get by Notre Dame Prep and Detroit Country Day. Really do. Excuse me. Coughing a lot today. I don't know why. But I think when I look at Pontiac, they're right now to me the best team in this division because they got scoring options besides J.J. Claudio. And that's really what it is right now. It's really what it is. I think Rochester is next in line here. When I look at the Falcons, the injury to Jake Tandy is huge. Max Small's played pretty well. He's played well for them. He had a big 59-48 win against Moonby Hills. Now, Moonby Hills is a different story. I mean, they're I don't know what's going on with them. They finally snapped a streak when they beat Southfield. But with Rochester, it's just stay in the course until Tandy comes back. Once Tandy comes back, look out. I think Rochester right now, when healthy, could be the biggest threat to Pontiac. I really do. Now, yeah, Bloomfield Hills has got that loss. They beat Pontiac earlier in the year. So, we'll see. We'll see what happens. And then, we look at Bloomfield Hills. The Blackhawks, I look at the Blackhawks, and they're coming off, they snapped the losing streak by knocking off A&T. So, when I look at Bloomfield Hills, obviously it's a confidence thing. They got to get their mojo back. They got to get their confidence back. I mean, they haven't been the same team since that Royal Oak game. They really haven't. So, the challenge for Coach Brian Canfield is going to be is, can he get their confidence back? If they do, I think they're going to be fine. If they don't, that could be trouble. That could be some big, big trouble. So, we'll see what happens. Royal Oak. The Ravens. I really look at the Ravens and I think about them as, they're a good team, but there's sometimes they get some lapses. And I think with them, it depends what Royal Oak team's going to show up. What Raven team's going to show up? That's the big question I have with them, is the lapses. It's the big question. So, we'll see what happens with them. We'll see what happens. Then let's look at A&T. A&T's struggling. They're really struggling right now. And for Coach Terrence Porter, he's got to get things fixed there over there. Because it looks like this season might be going away from him, which is not a good sign for them. He's got to get that thing fixed over there. Really do. Ferndale University. I'm buying stock in these guys. I like the Eagles. I like where they're at right now. I like what Coach Josh Nick's done with that team. He's done a magnificent job with them. He's done a great job building that program back. I mean, they had a year where they were good, but then they had some years where they struggled, and then they're back to being competitive again. They're back to being very competitive again. So when I look at the Eagles, here's a team that really, they tend to have they tend to be up and down. And I think that's really what it is right now. I think with the Eagles, they're playing with confidence. They're playing with house money. And that's a good sign for them going forward. I think they're going to be fine. And then there's Berkeley. When I look at the Bears, injuries. Injuries. That's what's hurting this team. The injury bug has really hurt Berkeley. I think with them, it's going to come down to is can Berkeley find a way, to overcome these injuries and get back in the thick of it. That's the big question for Coach Joe Sermo and his team. Is can they get back in the thick of it? We'll see. But end of the day here, you got to go what you got. So when I look at the Bears, you really got to go what you got. So we'll see what happens. So when I look at the blue here, I think Pontiac's the best team, then Rochester. Oh, I forgot Stony Creek. Right now they're starting to click again. They're starting to roll again. It's a good sign for them going forward. Excuse me. I don't know what's going on. But Stony Creek's a team that I think could do some wonders this year. They could. I mean, they're starting to click, which is a good sign for them going forward. So we'll see what happens. See what happens to them. But right now, Stony Creek's a team that you don't know what to expect with them. I mean, there's a lot of questions for Coach Jeff Owen and his team, so we'll see what happens going forward with them. Okay, now let's look at the standings here in the blue. Obviously, I got Pontiac, Pontiac, Rochester, Stony Creek, Bloomfield Hills, Royal Oak, Ferndale University, and then Pontiac. And then Berkeley right now. I mean, that's really what it is right now when I look at the standings right now in that division. So we'll see what happens. I mean, but right now, that's what I'm looking at right now is basically Pontiac right now has the edge in that division. Berkeley right now is in the cellar. So we'll see what happens in that division. I think there's a lot of basketball still yet to be played. So we'll see what happens. I mean, a lot of storylines when I look at everything that's been going on around the division. So we'll see what happens as we head into the middle parts of January and then end of February before the postseason starts. So we'll see what happens. Okay, now let's go from boys to girls. Obviously, when you look at the girls' side of things, I'm still trying to figure out what happened to Lake Orion on Tuesday night against Rochester. Just did not show up in that game, and it showed. I mean, 47-20. Izzy Walensky only had 10 points. And then Lake Orion responds on Thursday, going against Groves, and puts up a 60 spot, winning 60-43. Izzy Walensky, 32 points. So when I look at the Dragons, I think with Lake Orion, it just comes down to mental mindset with the Dragons. It comes down to mental mindset. And, obviously Charlotte Pavlovsky plays a big part in this. Now she was missing the Avondale game, which that showed. I know, when I look at the Dragons, this is a team that, they're as good as Walensky and Pavlovsky takes them. And I think that's what it is when you look at Lake Orion. When you look at, and I think that's and obviously the young ladies, obviously got Lala Hill, only a freshman. Caravita, only a sophomore. They're going to get looks. They're going to get a lot of attention. I think the big question for me is who's going to be in that interior. That's the big question going forward. Could it be a Jasmine Randolph? Could it be a Audrey Heiss? I mean, there's just a lot of questions regarding the post situation when you look at Dragons. There's just a lot of questions when you look at Coach Bob Bridges' team. A lot of questions. When you look at Clarkston, don't let that schedule deceive you. I mean, Eliana Roback, you got Brooklyn Colbert. The question for me is that third scoring option. Is it Alana Monger? Is it, they got a young freshman and Bella Flavin. They got Brooke Bond over there. They got Ellery Hernandez there. I mean, there's some players over there at Clarkson. There really is. So don't let that record deceive you when I look at the Wolves. And I think pretty much when I wrote my top 23, pretty much describes that. Oxford, the tough schedule that they played, obviously, obviously going through the fourth coach in 6 months. Still got players. I mean, you look at Sophia Robb, Mia Champagne, Allison Hofstadler. Big three over there. And they're proven three. Really are. West Bloomfield, they're as good as Sheridan Beal takes them. They're going to be as good as Sheridan Beal takes them. So, we'll see what happens with the Lakers, but as I mentioned, Sheridan Beal's the key to West Bloomfield's entire season. And then there is Stony Creek. Stony Creek really hasn't been tested since the game against Walled Lake Northern, where they ended up losing that game. I would want to see what Stony Creek team shows up in the red. And can this team be more than capable of making a red run? I don't know. I really don't know. There's just a lot of questions. Can the Avash sisters hold up? Can Merrick Schwabach hold up? It looks like right now they're more than holding up right now. But I don't think the schedule's been as impressive as, you look at a team like Clarkson's non-conference or Lake Orion's non-conference or a Oxford's non-conference. I just don't think the non-conference has been as good as people give credit where credit is due. So, we'll see how it goes. Really do. And then there's Ferndale. Ferndale obviously having a long break. A lot of questions with the Eagles. I still got concerns with this team. Program strength is going to be a big-time concern for them going forward. And I know the numbers are down over there, but still, you really got to look at with them. the numbers. That's really what it is with Ferndale. And seeing this gamble to the red will work because if it don't, then that could be some trouble going forward for them. So we'll see what happens right now. So when I look at the red right now, I would have to say it's Clarkston, West Bloomfield. I would say Stony Creek, Ferndale, Lake Orion, Oxford right now. That's what I would have right now. Now, I could switch both Lake Orion, Oxford, and Ferndale, so that is a possibility. So we'll see how that goes and how that plays out, especially in the first week of league play coming up. So we'll see what happens. White. Let's look at the white now. I mean, Seaholm to me, despite the loss of Dexter, I still think they're the best team in this division because of a few reasons. Experience matters. Experience matters. It really does. When I look at Coach Chris Manchester's team, you got proven playmakers, led by a point guard, Mary Gamis. I really think Seaholm could be a team that can win a district title this year. I'm a big believer in the Maples. I really am. Then I would have to say the next team is Rochester. I look at the Falcons, and the Falcons are a team that they really perform to the highest of levels. I think the Falcons are a team that really, with that win against Lake Orion, is Taylor Parsons the answer at guard? Is she the answer? I mean, because they still rely a lot on Alice Max. They still really do. Much do for Coach Andy Toppy. But it's going to come down to is can Rochester find a way to, get more players involved besides Max? Could a Kylie Robinson be involved? Could but it's got to be another one of those guards. It's got to be. But their length makes up for a lot of the problems that they lack. So we'll see what happens. So right now when I look at it here, Rochester's a team that, could be a scary team to watch for. They could be right behind Seaholm. I look at them. Bloomfield Hills relies a lot on Brianna Young, but they're starting to turn it around, which is a good sign for them going forward. So Bloomfield Hills right now on the right boat right now. Let's look at and then you look at a team like Troy. Troy right now, I just can't figure this team out. Diamond Prince came back. They had a rough loss to Chippewa Valley, which I was shocked, honestly, that they lost to Chippewa Valley. I was shocked. So I got to figure Troy out a little bit. I got to really figure this team out. I really do. So I think Troy's fine, but they're coming off a very bad loss to Chippewa Valley. And then there is Groves. When I look at Coach Jessica Dibble's team, they rely a lot on Harlem Simpson. And when Harlem Simpson gets into any sort of foul trouble, they're in trouble. When I look at Groves, they rely so much on Simpson to carry the load. I mean, J.C. Roy will have moments. They got other three-point shooters as well. The biggest concern I have with Groves coming in the year was the lack of size. And the lack of size showed in that Lake Orion game. It really did. Now, albeit, Lake Orion's a very physical team. But for Groves, that's life in the OAA for you. You have to be physical in this league. And for me to coach Dubla, this is what I'd say to her. The OAA and the Lakes Valley are two different conferences, two different animals. The OAA is a much more physical conference than the Lakes Valley. I mean, it is, you're going to have to win games ugly. You're going to have to win games ugly. So that's what I would say to her right now. But when I look at Groves right now, to me, this is a team that when Simpson gets in foul trouble, they're in so much trouble. That's really what it is right now. So when I look at the white right now overall, I would say Seaholm's my favorite. Seaholm's 1, Rochester 2, Troy 3, Bloomfield Hills 4, Groves 5. And I got to figure out who the other one was. I got to figure out who the other team was in that division. So, Chester, Troy, Bloomfield, Groves. It'll hit me. It'll come back to me. But right now, when I look at it, that's really what it is right now. And then we look at the blue. The blue. I mean, I think when I look at this division, it's as even as it can be, but I think Avondale still is the cream of the crop in this division after a double overtime win against Berkeley. Oh, I forgot. I know. Royal Oak. Royal Oak, when I look at, back the way here for a minute. Royal Oak, when I look at the Ravens, rough loss against Clarkston, fall to 3-4 on the year. So, I think they'll be okay. I think Coach Brian Spott's team will be okay. So, overall, again, let me go with the division of the white here. I got Seal. I got Rochester. Royal Oak, Troy. Bloomfield Hills, Groves. That's just my take right now in that division. Now to the blue. Avondale right now, as I mentioned, they're healthy right now. They're fine. But if they don't get healthy, that could be some trouble. So, health is going to be the key for Avondale going forward. Berkeley, yeah, they lost in double overtime. I think they're going to be fine. I think they're going to be okay. Adams, I think this is a team that can be really dangerous. Jordan Terrell, 25 points against A&T. Imagine when she comes back with Faye Solis. Yeah. And it also helps to have Coach Joe Malberg coming on the podcast on 2 weeks. So, we'll talk to Coach Malberg about Adams for sure. But right now, I view Adams right now as the most dangerous team in the OA right now. Because they can be sneaky good real quick. A&T, defensively, still got some issues with them. Defensively, big problem with A&T. That's how I look at it with them. Defense. Troy Athens is the Scooby-Doo version of the league right now. You don't know what you're going to get from them. You really don't. I mean, when I look at Athens, there's times they look really good and there's times they don't look good. So, we'll see with them. But I got some concerns when I look at Troy Athens right now. Really do. And then there's North Farmington. North Farmington's a very young team. They're a young group. They're getting some things figured out. I really think the Raiders are fine. So, they're a young team. They're going to take some lumps. So, for Coach Michael Lawlin, didn't go well. Last game, it really didn't go well. But I think they're going to be okay. They're going to be fine. So, when I look at the blue right now overall, I think it is Avondale 1, Berkeley 2, Adams 3, A&T 4, Athens 5, North Farmington 6. So, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens there. And then we look at the final division, the gold division. Farmington right now, I think they're still the cream of the crop, but watch out for Ferndale University. I'm really, really excited about this team. I like where Coach Benny has got this team going. This is a team last year that went winless. They were winless. But they have managed to turn things around. And they've really done a nice job turning things around over there. So that says a lot with Ferndale University. They have done a great job turning around that program. So we'll see with them. We're going to see what they have. We're going to see. And then let's look at Pontiac's a team that's been up and down. Oak Park's really been struggling. I just can't explain Oak Park's issues. Oak Park's only scored 38 total points in 4 games. That's not winning basketball. That is not winning basketball. I mean, how do you explain it? It's not winning ball. It's not winning. It's not a winning recipe. It really isn't. So they got to get some things fixed over there. They got to get some things fixed. Because if they don't, they're in trouble. They're going to be in some trouble if they don't get things fixed. So we'll see what happens. So overall in the gold, I got right now, I would say Farmington's my top team. Number 2 would be Oak Park. Then we got number 3. Number 3, we got, I should take it back. Farmington 1, Ferndale U2, Oak Park 3, I said Pontiac 3, Oak Park 4. So that's my take on the gold right now. So we'll see what happens. So my final thoughts before I go this week, obviously, haven't heard a lot of anything on the football and soccer yet. So we'll keep an eye on the coaching searches of each team. So we'll see what happens going forward. I did post a district thoughts, updated versions of it on the blog at segmentfor50@blogspot.com for latest information around the OAA. Other than that, there's been not a lot going around in the league much. Obviously, we got some hockey stuff. We got some, other sports to talk about as well. But right now, the main story right now looks to be basketball. So we'll see what happens going forward. But there's a lot to look at as we head into the winter months. And then before we start talking in the spring stuff. So we'll see what happens going forward. Everybody, we're signing off here. Make sure you follow the blog at segmentfor50@blogspot.com for this information around the OAA. We'll see what happens going forward. Take care. God bless. And I'll see you all next video. Take care. And I'll see you then. God bless all.